It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Kim Hammer Show. Thank you for joining me on a beautiful Saturday afternoon. Hope that you're out enjoying the beautiful fall weather. Got some rain last night, but it's going to clear out this afternoon. We are blessed, much more blessed than our neighbors to the south, so keep them in your prayers, if you will, as they are recovering from the hurricane that moved through. Want to start off by thanking the sponsors of this program, and let me just do a little housekeeping that the comments and opinions that are shared on this radio show are mine and mine alone, or that of my guest, and not a reflection on the station or any of the sponsors, but we do appreciate the opportunity for 101.1 FM The Answer giving me every Saturday from noon to 1 to bring you issues of importance to you in Arkansas, and also the opportunity just to share the opinions of the guests that come on the show. The sponsors that help make this show possible are Everett GMC Buick down in Saline County. As I always tell you, it's a great place to go and get a new GMC product or a pre-certified used owned vehicle, and they can take care of all your maintenance needs. You can get in and out really quick for oil maintenance or other minor maintenance. They've got a great room for you to wait in with all the benefits and amenities that you would want to have whenever you're waiting to get your car worked on. So drive on down there to I-30 and Alcoa Road. You'll see the big flags on the left, and that's Buick or Everett Buick GMC. They'll take care of you. Also, for the real estate needs you might have in Central Arkansas, as I always tell you, Baxley Phillips Mounty Real Estate here in Central Arkansas, they'll take care of all your real estate needs, regardless whether you want to buy or sell residential or commercial, or if you have property that you want to rent or you're looking to rent, they can take care of you in that area as well. They're a great place to go and do business. They are, as Everett's are, they are very customer friendly, and they have great family values as well, so they'll take care of you there at Baxley Phillips Mounty. And Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas and over in East Arkansas, great place for you to shop to get good food at quality prices, always fresh. Also clean stores, friendly staff that are willing to help you. And as I always tell you, you can either order online and it'll be picked up there at the curb, and you can just pull right up to the door. The one thing I do like about their stores is that you can get in and out real easy. And in today's time, that's an important factor because everybody's time is valuable. So Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas over in East Arkansas. Also want to remind you, if you don't check it out, check out my website, which is thekimhammershow.com. We have a lot of information both here in the state, but also applicable to things that are going on at the national level, things that will keep you up to date on conservative values, and that's thekimhammershow.com. If you will, just please share and like it, and we would appreciate that very much. All right, on the show today, the Kim Hammer Show today, we have 3 state representatives that I have a lot of respect for. And the first one that's going to be joining us is Stephen Meeks, and then Carlton Wing is going to come on here in just a little bit, and then we'll finish up the show with Karilyn Brown. All 3 of these are running for their seats this time around, and I've served with Stephen. In fact, Stephen and I came into the House at the same time back in 2011, and we weren't seatmates side by side, but we were close enough we could reach out and aggravate each other. So, Stephen, I thank you for coming on the Kim Hammer Show and taking time off the campaign trail just to spend a little time on the Kim Hammer Show.
Thank you, sir. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
I was looking over your committee assignments, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're chair of Advanced Communications and Information Technology, correct?
Right.
And
that's right.
All right, and then chair of the JBC Joint Budgeting Committee, Administrative Rules and Regulation Review Subcommittee, and then you're co-chair of the Advanced Communication Information Technology, both joint between the House and the Senate. Then you've got a pretty good laundry list of being on the Agricultural as well as the Education Committee and Joint Budget, which for those that are listening, Joint Budget is starting this week, and so we'll begin getting prepared for the next budget that's coming up, and we'll be in budget hearings for about 4 to 6 weeks over the time. This is the one where we go through and do the detailed analysis of each agency and kind of get down in the weeds. So, Stephen, one reason I wanted to get you on the program was because you've been very instrumental, and IT is something that's of a strong interest to you, and I know you played a big role with regard to securing some funding for broadband. Can you just kind of give us a little history about your involvement with the broadband issue in the House and legislative branch, and just kind of bring us up to speed with where we are now?
Sure. I'm going to provide just a little bit of history about how we got to where we're at, and then we'll talk about how we go forward from here. So before I ran for office, I was a wireless internet technician for a small internet company here in Conway. And so part of my job was to go out into rural areas and install broadband internet for folks. So when I was elected in 2011, I naturally gravitated to the broadband issue. And I remember as a freshman lawmaker sitting in on meetings where leadership and others would talk about the importance of broadband, and there was a lot of fussing and so forth, as there usually is. But in the end, nothing got done. So while other states were investing in broadband, we weren't. And so we would fall behind and fall behind. That finally started to change in 2015. Jeremy Gillum, who was a speaker at the time, appointed me to be the chair of the Technology Committee for the House and assigned me the broadband issue, trying to find solutions. And as part of that, he sent me to several other states to find out what they were doing. So I went to Kentucky and Colorado and Illinois to try to learn from them so we weren't reinventing the wheel, to try to find something that we could use here in Arkansas. At the same time, we also did sort of a listening tour with the committee. We went all over the state, talked to all the various broadband providers, listened to community leaders, stakeholders, and brought that back to Little Rock. And we had some proposed legislation in 2017, but we just weren't able to get some of the support at that time. They just for a variety of political reasons, which we won't jump all into right now. But of course, last year, in 2019, the governor allotted $25 million to the Arkansas Rural Connect program. So it was a good first step for the state to begin investing in broadband. But the problem, and just so everybody understands that the enormity of where we're at with this, there's about 1.3 million households in the state of Arkansas, and that's apartments, single-family homes, and so forth. And it can cost anywhere between $1,000 and $3,000 per house to connect. So you work out the math, you subtract those that already have it, and the estimates are anywhere between $750 and $1 billion to get everybody across the state connected. So it's a huge undertaking. It's sort of like our version of the electrification issue of prior generations. As you know, in rural areas, there are just some parts of the state. And by the way, and this is what it came down to, it wasn't any policy issues that were in place. It's just there's some parts of the state that you cannot make a business case to go into that area because there's not enough subscribers to pay for all the infrastructure that has to go in and the maintenance of it. And so this is where the state comes in, and the state is going to have to help subsidize the getting of that equipment out into the rural areas in order for more folks to have access to broadband. And of course, with the pandemic, that has only reiterated the need on a large scale, how important this technology is, and has probably pushed the technology maybe 10 years faster than would have otherwise happened. So, every time I saw the governor, I was always bugging him, broadband. Well, finally, 1st of August, with the support of the speaker, the pro tem, Jane English, and myself, we had a meeting with the governor. And the governor asked me, how much do we need to invest in broadband right now? And I told him $100 million. And he felt that we could do that. He understands the importance of this issue. He's been very supportive of it all along. And so that's where the $100 million came from that the state is currently investing in the broadband. The governor then asked me how we should go about getting that out. I gave him two options. He chose to invest in the current ARC program that we'd already set up, which I think was the smart move. The one thing that I did recommend, though, is that we needed to relax the rules a little bit. We still want accountability, but we don't want the red tape to be so burdensome that it makes it so that our small and medium-sized, our homegrown businesses can't get involved and get access to this money. The federal government has made billions of dollars available over the years for broadband, but the problem with that is the requirements, all the paperwork you've got to fill out and all the red tape, as you can imagine, it's a huge undertaking. And if you're a small and medium-sized businesses, you just don't have the resources or the manpower to go after those type grants. And so what a lot of times would happen is the large carriers would get access to that money. But, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, if you're a nationwide carrier, Arkansas is not a very profitable enterprise for you because we just don't have the population density like you'd find in a Texas or Florida or New York. And so because of that, our folks have taken a back seat in this issue. And so I've always believed that not that, and I don't want to say that the large carriers can't be part of the solution. They definitely can be. But I think out into the rural areas, our small and medium size, our homegrown businesses, those are the ones I think are going to be the ones who are going to be the real ones to solve this problem. And so the purpose of this program was trying to get money into their hands so that they can start getting this out into our community. And we're beginning to see it happen. With $100 million, we'll think we'll get about 40,000 households connected. There is a time crunch on this because it's CARES money. That money has to be spent by the end of the year. So these carriers that have gotten the money are feverishly getting it out and installed. So I think last time I heard there was 12 to 15 grants that have already been approved. We're getting close to the $50 million mark. And so we're starting to see some good progress across the state. Now, obviously it's not enough. It won't get to everyone. Because like I said, it's about $1 billion issue. This is only, 10 to 15% of what the total need is going to be. But the hope is if we start with the smaller communities, the Mayflowers, Fairfield Bays, Mark Tree, get the small communities done, sort of the low-hanging fruit. Then as we go forward, then we'll start to see it then shift out into the more rural areas. And I've already warned the governor, if I get reelected come session, I'm going to be, knocking on his door asking for more money for this.
Well, and then you can throw on top of that the rural electric co-ops have gotten into the game, and they are bringing quite a bit of money to develop it. And that, it's kind of like you don't know really what turned the switch, but somewhere along the way, they began to accept the idea, and others have begun to accept the idea. And I think COVID probably pushed a lot of this to the table because when you got kids sitting in the McDonald's parking lot or the Walmart parking lot or whatever, their local business parking lot, having to get their homework, downloaded and do everything, I think it just really accelerated it to the forefront. So all the work that you've been doing since 2011 is finally paying off. Now, are all the co-ops, and I know you're the expert in this area, but are all the co-ops participating in trying to provide this to their service areas, or do you know what the latest statistics are on which ones or how many of them are?
I'm trying to remember. I think there's 20 co-ops, and I may have that wrong, but I know the majority of them are interested in getting involved in this because it not only helps their customers, but there's actually a little bit of a self-interest in it amongst the co-ops. Because it allows them to better manage their electric systems. They can better monitor their substations. Smart meters become more common. It allows for them to, with a smart meter, they can see if, down to your house, whether there's a power outage or not. And so they've got a self-interest, and a lot of them have, like you said, have shown an interest to start investing millions and millions of dollars to also get this done. So, one of the things that we have to be careful of, and, as lawmakers, it's really easy to get caught in this one size fits all. But in the broadband issue, there's the co-ops, there are the, regular telephone carriers, there's cable companies, there's just straight up internet service providers. So there's a bunch of different business models that are involved. And of course, all of those different entities typically are playing by different sets of rules. The co-ops are regulated as utilities. The telephone companies, they have their regulations. And then the small internet service providers, they have yet a different set. So the mix and match here is something that makes it challenging to make sure we take all that stuff into account. But as far as I know, most of the co-ops have expressed an interest in getting into this. And I've been contacted by some my own constituents, because I'm in a rural area here in Faulkner County, and they say, hey, my local provider is not going to invest up here. Am I just out of luck? And I've already made my position clear that, and I think we've done this with the investment grant as well. If you're a carrier and you're in an area and you're not willing to make the investment in that area, then we're going to give the money to somebody else and let them come and make the investment in the area.
Which
And
is
so
only
the
right.
hope- yeah. And the hope is that that'll create a little bit of competitiveness amongst the carriers to say, hey, you better, take this serious, and you better be in making the investments and working on this with us as a state. If not, you're going to probably lose market share to someone else who's willing to do it.
All right,
Yeah.
let's shift gears for a second because I've got you on until 12:30, and then Carlton Wing's coming on. Karilyn Brown's coming in right behind you. So talk about your district. Let people know where you are. I know you're up in Faulkner County, but give us some boundary ideas.
Sure. So basically, I have the central Faulkner County area. So I run from West Conway up to Wooster, Greenbrier, over to Holland, and down into the Valonia area. So it's kind of a swath across the central part of the across the county. Right now in this race, I'm cautiously optimistic. It's one of the more conservative districts in the state. The support that I've received this election cycle has been incredible. Sometimes as a conservative, you think, am I the lone voice? Is anybody out here? Because we always hear the left and their attacks and so forth. But just the support I've been getting from the community, the volunteers, is it's been overwhelming and very, very humbling. And if folks are wanting to get involved in the campaign here in Faulkner County, or looking for signs and want to help, our Republican headquarters is going to be open this afternoon from now until about 3:00. It's located in Greenbrier this year, but if you drive up Highway 65 into Greenbrier, it's up right next to the Revenue Center. If you're coming from Conway, it's on the left-hand side, kind of across from the Greenbrier Family Medical Center. And if you're driving up the highway, you'll see it on the left, but we'll have that open until roughly 3:00 this afternoon, and folks can stop by and get signs for myself, for President Trump, and of course, French Hill. One of the best things we can do to help President Trump is to make sure we get French Hill reelected. So we've been strongly encouraging that. And, last week we held a kind of a mobile headquarters event here in Conway. And just from folks driving by, we gave away 40 French Hill signs, 10 of my signs. We sold out of Trump signs. So the support for, the conservative Republican values here in Faulkner County has just been overwhelming this go around. It's incredible just to see the enthusiasm. You and I have been involved in this for 10 years now, and I don't think I've ever seen the kind of enthusiasm I'm seeing for our conservative Republican values as I have this election cycle.
Well, and I think that's partly because we're at such a pivotal point in our nation's history that if we, God forbid that the conservatives lose control, I'm going to throw a little biblical perspective in here. I think we're just seeing the beginning of the ends of times, just to be point blank. But, and I think people in Arkansas, having seen the conservatives be in control now for less than 10% of the time that the liberals were in control, and the changes that have been made in the short time that we've been in control, I think that is resonating with people to where they realize that this needs to be a long-term engagement, and that's why it's so important to make sure that we keep a conservative voice both in the House and in the Senate, and in the constitutional offices, and right down to the local level. A lot of people don't realize how valuable and how important it is that we keep a conservative voice at the local level, whether that be the JP or the city council, because that's really kind of where it bursts out of, if you will. And I know up in Faulkner County, y'all have a strong conservative presence, and really are kind of stepping up to be one of the leaders in the in the state, which is great for Arkansas and great for Central Arkansas. Let me ask you real quickly, talk about some of the other areas of interest. I know that broadband is your heartbeat, but other areas of interest when you're reelected that you anticipate that you'll be involved in or working on in the next upcoming election cycle.
Sure. So a couple issues and a lot of technology-related issues, as you might expect. The cybersecurity is one we're looking at. Data analytics is another. This probably, broadband is definitely an important one, but I think probably the most important thing that I will accomplish as far as a long term is in the data area. Prior to this time, the various state agencies have all kept their data in silos, not talking to each other. and it creates huge inefficiencies. A very basic example of this is if you move and change your address and then you update your driver's license. Well, your driver's license is now correct, but your voter ID is still wrong. Your hunting license is wrong. Your tax information is still wrong. And the list goes on and on. And so, as you can imagine, the state wastes thousands of dollars a year just in postage because of an address change where one agency has the correct information, but nobody else does. Well, so imagine a future where there's one single, either an app or a website where you as a citizen can go to that website, you can see the information the state has on you, you change your address, it gets updated across all state agencies, you log in there, or, the time comes to, pay your property tax or renew your business license or whatever, all the information's in one nice, simple location. And in the process of doing this, we end up saving the state money, and that's just on a citizen interface. We did a very basic proof of concept with the correction system. They did that about a year ago, and they found that, there are like 120 or so prisoners in the state of Arkansas that had 4+ Social Security numbers they were using. There was another 100 and some that had Social Security numbers that weren't even real Social Security numbers. And so that fraud was found out and discovered simply by running one of these analytics things. And the other thing that we have done is, prior to this time, when a prisoner was paroled, the parole officer was looking at data that was sometimes 8 months to a year old and trying to find the best program to match up that prisoner to help them get reintroduced back into society. Well, now we've got a system that uses real-time analytics, looks at the particular circumstance of that individual, and defines and tailors a program to that parolee to give them the best possible chance of getting reintroduced into society. So we're already beginning to see the fruits of that, and as time goes forward, we'll continue to see that grow. And, of course, as that resource grows, the state should become much more efficient, should be simpler to interact with for the citizens, and should save a lot of taxpayer dollars because of those efficiencies. So I'm working on that. Something else that I'm hoping to do, and this actually came up as part of the broadband issue, whenever broadband companies put their equipment out into the field, they have to start paying personal property tax on it. And one of the large carriers told me they were spending millions of dollars a year on the property tax on that equipment, which then, of course, just gets passed on to the consumer and makes broadband more expensive for the end users. And last go around, I proposed a constitutional amendment, and I'll do it again this go around, that'll allow the General Assembly to begin phasing out personal property tax. It'll take a number of years because it's a $500 million input that it creates. But my hope is that over those 20, 25 years, I suspect we could probably do it even quicker if we leaned into it, that just economic growth in the state can pay for allowing us to get rid of personal property tax. So imagine as a citizen of the state, no longer every spring do you have to go down and get your vehicles assessed. No longer as a business owner do you have to get your property assessed and pay that tax. So finally, you own that vehicle free and clear, and you don't have to worry about paying the tax every year to the state. So, if you're listening and that's something you support, then definitely, please contact your representatives and ask them to help us out with that.
All right, Stephen, I'm going to have to cut you off. I got to take a break here in about a minute, and I got Carlton Wings waiting on the line, but I'll try to get you back on. I just want to say thank you for taking time out of the campaign. I know it's quit raining, so I know you're going to be out there, knocking the doors and doing the things that you got to do. But again, I served with Stephen Meeks since 2011. We came into the House together. I can tell you he's a person of integrity. He is tenacious at working, and when it comes to advancing us into the future and making it competitive with states around us and around the nation, he's a good individual to be leading the charge on it. So, Stephen, have you got a website or you got a place that people can go get information or if they want to do something for you?
Yeah, my website is stephenmeeks.org. It's got all the information on there. And, folks are wanting to help in the campaign when we get into early voting. It's just as simple as grab a lawn chair, a cool drink, and whenever you got a free time, go up to one of the polling centers and hold a Meeks sign or Trump sign or, French Hill sign or any of our JPs. It doesn't have to be organized. Just whenever you got a free minute, just, head on up to a polling place and just smile and wave at voters. And, maybe we can swing a few, last-minute votes to help make sure we stay a conservative state here in Arkansas.
Very good. That's Stephen, and that's spelled Stephen, Meeks, MEEKS.org. So go up there. If nothing else, send them a word of encouragement. Stephen, great to have you on the show today, and just be careful out there campaigning. All right, when we come back from the break, we're going to have State Representative Carlton Wing on. He represents District 38. You're listening to the Kim Hammer Show here on 101.1 FM, The Answer.
Take The Answer with you anywhere with our free mobile app, 1011fmtheanswer.com, your smart speakers, iHeart, or radio.com. Breaking news and stimulating talk. 101.1 FM, The Answer. A voice we need now more than ever. This is Charlie Kirk.
I was on the front lines of the greatest political upset in American history with Donald Trump Jr. We traveled the country. But what I am seeing right now makes 2016 look like a micron of that, just a fraction of it. A ripple in a pond. The intensity and the enthusiasm.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Weeknights at 10 on 101.1 FM. The Answer. The U.S. Constitution and the rule of law are under attack now more than ever before. A radical agenda by the far left is destroying the bedrock of our great nation. We must protect conservative ideals with our votes and in our homes. Join Dennis Prager, Dr. Sebastian Gorka, Charlie Kirk, and Larry Elder for America's Town Hall 2020, a live stream discussion about how we reclaim our country from a democracy that's under attack. America's Town Hall 2020. Visit salemtownhall.com for tickets. Take The Answer with you anywhere with our free mobile app, 1011fmtheanswer.com, Amazon Alexa, iHeart, or radio.com. Breaking news and stimulating talk. 101.1 FM. The Answer. A voice we need now more than ever. This is Charlie Kirk.
I cannot find one ruling that Amy Coney Barrett had as judge that I disagree with. She is a constitutionalist through and through. Her judicial philosophy is one of an originalist. She believes in how the law was written.
The Charlie Kirk Show. Weeknights at 10 on 101.1 FM. The Answer.
Hi, this is Dennis Prager. This election year, your vote is more important than ever. Be sure to register and vote. Our country's future depends on it.
The Dave Ellswick Classic Movie is back, Tuesday, October 27th. Join us for the bloody beginnings of the summer camp slasher.
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing around.
Friday the 13th is back on the big screen at the Riverdale 10 VIP Cinema. From 1980, a group of camp counselors are stalked and murdered by an unknown assailant.
His name was Jason.
While trying to reopen a summer camp that was the site of a child's drowning and a grisly double murder years before.
The counselors weren't paying any attention.
Featuring Kevin Bacon, Friday the 13th shows one time only, Tuesday, October 27th at 7 p.m. Get your tickets now at Riverdale10.com.
Look what you did to him.
Friday the 13th from Dave Ellswick and 101.1 FM, The Answer.
Are they all dead?
Yes, ma'am.
The boy, is he dead too?
Who?
Jason.
We didn't find any boy.
Then he's still there.
Welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show on this Saturday afternoon. Thank you for joining me. Our sponsors of the program are Everett Buick GMC down in Saline County there at I-30 and Alcoa Road. You can go down there and get a great new GMC product as well as a pre-certified used vehicle that's been through all the checkpoints, and you can buy it with confidence knowing that you're going to be have a good experience buying it. Then I also want to thank Baxley Phillips Mounty Real Estate, Central Arkansas. Take care of all your real estate needs. They will help you from the beginning of the sale to the end of the sale and stay with you all the way through. Edwards Food Store in Central Arkansas and over in East Arkansas. As I always tell you, it's a great place to shop. You get competitive prices, clean store, friendly staff, and it is a great place to get in and out of quick. You got great produce, great meat, nothing bad about the place. Where I go to shop, they always take care of you. So I'd encourage you to check out Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas. All right, joining us now on the Kim Hammer Show is Representative Carlton Wing. off the campaign trail, been out doing some door knocking and interacting with the public. Carlton, thank you for taking time out this afternoon to be on the Kim Hammer Show.
Hey, great. It's an honor to be here.
All right, Carlton, so you represent District 38. Give us the geographical territory of what District 38 covers.
It's the northern part of North Little Rock and the southern part of Sherwood. It's north of I-40, and geographically, I think it's the smallest House district in the state. It is all suburbs, and what's great is that I serve on the Agriculture Committee. And so I always say that I very proudly represent all of the square-foot gardens in North Little Rock and Sherwood.
That's important, brother. It is to them for sure.
Yes.
All right, so you have 1 or 2 terms in the House already.
2 terms in the House, running for a third.
Very good. And I was looking over some of your accomplishments as far as what you've achieved in the first 2 terms of being a state representative. And just go ahead and highlight some of the ones that stand out the most to you. I'm looking at your list, but I'll give you the option to pick which ones you want to talk about.
Well, one of the things that was really near to me was when I realized, we're doing God's work in this, is the Succeed Scholarship, the opportunity for children with IEPs, so heavily disabled children, to have an educational option that matches, to be able to go to a school that's geared for their special needs. And these special needs children and their families are absolutely loving this opportunity to do that. The Succeed Scholarship has just been great, and I've been able to pass a bill or two with regards to that, and I've been able to tour some of these schools and talk to the families who have been impacted by this, and it's a wonderful story. It's a wonderful thing that the state of Arkansas is doing. So I've been very grateful to be part of that. One of the things that doesn't get many headlines, although I have talked with Dave Ellsworth more than once on this, is the construction manager general contractor method of procurement. And that is something that everybody likes to talk about on their dinner tables, is highway procurement. And so, but what is interesting and exciting about this is it's a different way of approaching a large-scale project from highway construction standpoint, which is very expensive and very lengthy. But by having this methodology go through, which allows kind of a seamless transition between all the different phases, from the bid and the design to the construction phase, we were able to save on our very first project, we were able to save the taxpayers of Arkansas $7 million just by using a different method of procurement, doing the same work, but doing it in a different way. And so I've passed bills on that in my first term in 2017, which created this pilot program. And then we were able to expand the pilot program a little bit in 2019. And we've got high hopes for that. And it's not necessarily for every highway project, but for those that it matches up with, we're seeing a benefit to the taxpayers right off the top, and it's great.
Yeah, and that I'm looking at that. That's Act 809. It was your House Bill 2273, and that was a big bill because of the savings, but also because it it forced RDOT. I think back then called Department of Transportation when you did that, but now it's called RDOT, to take a look at their management methods and the way in which they went about procuring their contracts. And there is savings under every rock you turn over, so that was a good one, and especially in the area that you serve. Being there in North Little Rock, and with what's going on with I-30 now, as far as the the contract that's going to start over there, and with issue 1 coming up as well, it was good to put a spotlight on that to see the savings that could be created. Back on the Succeed Scholarship, we'd actually worked together, I think, on that, because we expanded that also to include foster children, so that they would have that opportunity, because a foster child's already in a disrupted lifestyle. And it was a very compassionate thing to do, to allow them to be able to stay, in the school that they had found comfort in, and the Succeed Scholarship that helped to do that too. So, kudos to you for that. All right, what other ones come to your mind that you want to focus on?
Well, we increased workplace safety, which was a big deal in the aftermath of the medical marijuana bill that the voters passed in 2016's election. We had to address that as a legislature. And you remember, you and I were together in the House in that session, and I can't remember how many bills, but it had to have been in the 50s or 60s, or at least issues that we had to address to make sure it was implemented correctly, to do the least amount of harm to Arkansans and protect the will of the voters. And one of the big ones was, how does an employer ensure workplace safety? Because monitoring marijuana impairment is not anywhere near as clear as alcohol impairment. You can take a breathalyzer test and you can get a pretty good indication as to whether or not somebody's impaired. But with marijuana, it's not that clear at all. And so we had a pretty extensive bill, and we worked with a lot of different groups to be able to make sure that when our employees are going to work, that they are going to a safe place to work and they will not be harmed by anybody who, it would be impaired and could cause harm to either fellow employees or customers.
Yep. All right. What other ones? Because I got a couple here I'll talk about, but I want to give you the opportunity. So give me a couple other ones that stand out most to you.
Those were the three that I think had some pretty significant impact. Yeah. What have you got there?
Well, I want to commend you because I know that you're very instrumental in, doing something with the fire departments, and you were the lead champion on that. And so I want to commend you for that because, you stepped up to the plate on that one.
That was an interesting bill because when we looked at the premise behind it, everybody was supportive of the premise. And for the listeners who aren't sure what we're talking about what ended up being Crump's Law, which was named after somebody named Nathaniel Crump. He was a firefighter in Cabot. He was having to go to work with stage 4 cancer because if he didn't, he would lose the medical benefits that came with employment and his family would be broke while he was dying of cancer that he got on the job. For those of you who don't know, firefighters have a much higher risk of on-the-job cancers because of all of the things that they're breathing in now. Back in the day, decades ago, when they respond to a house fire or any kind of a fire, it was typically wood that was burning. Well, now there are so many plastics and so many other things that are burning that bring in toxins that are very, very harmful to the body. And so, as a result, our firefighters have a much higher percentage of them getting cancers on the job. And so what this bill did, and what it was attempting to do at first, was to be able to ensure that a firefighter would be able to stay employed, keep his medical benefits so that his family would not go broke while he was fighting cancer. It would give him enough leave time to be able to do that. The way it was written initially was there was some problems with it, and it was far too costly with kind of potential of an endless blank check for the cities, and they've got to be able to budget like everybody else. And so we were able to step in and fix the bill, and I was able to have a role in being able to rally support for this because initially there was some concern, and we were able to rally support after we fixed the bill. We got it through the Senate fairly easily. We had a little drama in the House, but we were able to get it passed. And because of that now, our firefighters, we ask them to go out every day and put their lives on the line in some pretty tense situations, with what's going on, and as we mentioned, you don't know what's burning back there. If they get cancer by doing that, we have a responsibility. It's the moral and the right thing to do to make sure that they are cared for while they fight the cancers that they get on the job.
Very good. I'll give you one more, and then I've got to get Karilyn Brown on the Kim Hammer Show here in just a second. But I also noticed you were co-sponsor of the Arkansas Unborn Child Protection from Dismemberment Abortion Act. Mm-hmm. And I know to conservatives that means a lot. You want to talk about that one for a second?
Well, that's when you hear what happens in those horrible abortions, it really strikes to the core of your soul. And I was very grateful to been able to co-sponsor that. I'm grateful for my endorsement from the Right to Life. I'm 100% Right to Life, and here's something that I think future generations are going to look at this generation with shock and horror about what we did with regards to abortion. And I feel very passionately about these children. You talk about people who don't have a voice needing a voice. These children need our voice, and I'm very grateful to have sponsored that or co-sponsored that, and I'm grateful to be a part of what is now the number 2 state in the nation in terms of right to life legislation.
Yep, and we're aiming for number 1. All right, real quick, right. Tell us what committees you're on, and just give us your committee assignments that you're on.
I'm on agriculture, forestry, and economic development. I'm also on public transportation. I chair the House Management Committee. I also serve as an alternate, I'm the speaker's alternate on the Arkansas Legislative Council and Legislative Audit as well.
And let me tell y'all, for those of you that don't know about being on House Management, that is like the most thankless job in the House. I mean, you got to keep 100 House manager or 100 House members, happy. And that is not for the faint of heart. I have heard that you've done good things down there on that. So I just want to commend you for that. But all right, real quick, what was your life before politics?
Before politics, I was a sportscaster on Channel 4 years ago. That's what I grew up here in North Little Rock, and went out west to get a few jobs and get my education. Came back, and my whole goal was to get back and work. And I worked for Channel 4 from 1998 to 2001, and then I just, by the luck and grace of God, I was able to get into the professional fishing world, and I have been shooting and producing outdoors television since 2001. We've got national programs on the Sportsman's Channel and World Fishing Network. We've got a local show that airs here as well called FLW Arkansas and the Little Rock Television Network. In fact, we'll be on the air at 4:30 this afternoon on Channel 38, FLW Arkansas. Check that out. But it's a great way to showcase the amazing waterways of Arkansas and throughout the country. We go all over. And it's been great. But that's what I do when I am outside of the legislature. Of course, right now during campaign time, there's not much of that, but I'm looking forward to meeting my bass boat again on November the 4th.
Very good. Hey, what's your website, or if people wanted to go up there and send you a message or just communicate with you?
Two great ways. We do have a website, carltonwing.com. And then also we're pretty active on Facebook. You can get up Carlton Wing State Representative on Facebook. Lots of videos there. We're very, very passionate about civil discourse. I think that is the greatest threat that our country faces. It's not external. It's not China. It's not internal in the sense of COVID-19 or anything like that. The greatest threat we face is our inability to sit down and come and reason together and solve problems. If we can't do that, it doesn't matter what problem we face because we'll lose to every single one of them. And so I've got a lot of videos and a lot of discussion on how to discuss things with people with whom we agree and people with whom we don't. And I think that's an important skill for us to acquire.
Very good. Carlton, I appreciate you. By the way, my son works for Stratton Seed Company out of Stuttgart. I need to get you two hooked up, you and your sports channel, because y'all might be able to do something together. So remind me of that, with you having that outdoor sports side of you and him having that outdoor sports side of you, of him. Y'all two might make a good match. So Carlton Wing is running for his third term in the House of Representatives up in District 38, North Little Rock, there into Sherwood. I've known him, as he mentioned. He served his first term, my last term in the House, because I'm in the Senate now. And I can tell you, and I can give you testimony that he would not be a disappointment to you to be your state representative. Carlton, thanks for being on, and good luck on the campaign trail this afternoon. Now we're going to go to Karilyn Brown, who is state representative, and I'll let her tell you about her taking time to be off the campaign trail this afternoon on the Kim Hammer Show.
Well, thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate your inviting me onto your show, and I should refer to you as Senator Hammer. And I apologize for that. We're all friends.
You can call me Kim. That name will go with me till forever, so don't worry about that. It's all good. Hey, Karilyn, tell us, Representative Brown, tell us what geographical territory do you cover?
Well, it's basically central Arkansas, the northern part of Pulaski County. I cover the part of Sherwood that Carlton doesn't cover, which is the bulk of Sherwood, and one precinct of North Little Rock there adjacent to Sherwood, and one subdivision in Jacksonville, the North Lake subdivision. So it's all south of the air base and north of Little Rock.
Okay. Now, you've been in the House for how long? How many terms how many terms do you have, and this would be your what term?
I'm completing my third term.
All right. So I know you and I were together for 2 terms in the House as well. When you came in, I'd been there for 1 term anyway. And tell us about what you would look back and say are some of your signature pieces of legislation or areas that you've worked on since being in the House.
Well, one of the pieces of legislation that I passed last time that I hear the most about is amending or actually extending the lifetime hunting and fishing license for veterans that used to require that they be 100% disabled. frequently, when you're 100% disabled, you're not going to be hunting and fishing. So we've changed that to 70%, and that would include a lot more people. So I was really proud about that. And then we originally, when the law was written where you could have the veteran designation on your driver's license, it said that you needed to present your DD-214. Well, not every person who separates from the military receives a DD-214. There's a list of about 6 or 7 other documents that are official separation documents that we have now included in that to make it easier for veterans to get that designation. Now, that designation on their driver's license is good information for, if they're ever stopped. It's nice for a state patrolman or local police to know it, but it also enables them to have it on their driver's license if there's any kind of discounts or benefits made available to veterans.
All right. Any others? Because I've got a list in front of me I'm going to ask you about, but any others that come to your mind that you'd like to talk about? Well,
this last session, we passed some legislation to establish a UAMS, a what was that called? Cancer Research Institute.
They got national designation for being a cancer research, and I think that was part of what Senator Missy Irvin worked on as far as securing some funding for them as well, to give them that national certification, which takes them up to the level of a lot of the other world-recognized cancer institutions.
Right, and that was one of our Republican women legislator initiatives. And so I was really proud to be part of that. And we also are trying to make it easier for people who want to go into the child care business, to make it easier for people to go back to work. And let's see, and then telecommunications, to expand telecommunications broadband throughout the state, because we've all found out that telemed and teleeducation and just about everything else, our broadband is basically a utility that we all need. And even if you don't live in these areas where broadband is not accessible, you probably travel in those areas, and safety becomes an issue. So we're trying to expand broadband. Now, you go ahead and ask me about some that you have on your list.
Well, I noticed that you have a strong background as far as when it comes to like criminal victim notification and concerning the release of a person who committed a criminal act and was who was determined to have a mental disease or defect. Can you talk about your criminal background as far as your interest in those areas?
Well, we want to make sure that victims are aware when somebody is released. That's very, very important. And
I know that you were.
But I also.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It's kind of got. I had that one was not fresh on my mind, but we also want to look at criminal justice reform. Currently, I'm working on some legislation because we have 5 or 6 misdemeanor convictions that require that a person, once they've served their probation for this misdemeanor, they have to wait 5 years before they can even apply to get their record cleared. And I think that might be a little too stringent, and I'm looking at removing that 5-year requirement.
I also noticed that you participated in House Bill 1047, which is now Act 633, to require that a voter provide verification of voter registration when voting, and to amend Amendment 51 of the Arkansas Constitution, which I think is the one that we all joined on, to require a little bit stronger voter verification to help eliminate the voter fraud, which, given everything that's going on the national level right now, I continue to hear stories at the national level, on the state level, about people that are receiving mail-in ballots, not the early voting, absentee, which is, a good enough process, strong enough in place as it is. But I think that one was a critical one. I remember you were working on the voter verification law as well.
Well, I do know this, that in speaking with our election commission, a person, the very first time they vote, they are required to show voter ID. And so, that is critical. People have to prove that they are that they're actually authorized to vote, that they are a registered voter. One of the other things that we did do that I was really proud of, and it wasn't my bill, I believe I was a co-sponsor, but it came through our committee, and it had to do with sanctuary cities, because we're seeing some of our communities leaning towards becoming sanctuary cities. So we did pass legislation to halt that, and no ordinances are allowed to be passed in cities or counties that would effectively make them a sanctuary. And the bottom line on that is, if somebody is a criminal alien and they are then being released from jail or prison, our law enforcement officials' standard procedure is to notify the federal authorities so the federal people can come pick them up rather than just releasing them back into society. And I was really proud that we passed that legislation.
Well, and I was listening to one of the national talk shows this week, and they were talking to some of the legislators out of California, how that California is now trying to get out of the sanctuary city business. They've had enough time, which that's what happens when you give a liberal idea some feet and roots. Eventually, you'll realize it's not exactly the best thing to do, but that California is actually trying to get out of the sanctuary city business because they've realized it's not everything that they thought it was going to be going into it. So it's good to be ahead of the game as far as that subject matter is concerned in Arkansas. Tell us what some of the committees are that you serve on.
Well, my A committee, as we call it, is public health, House, Labor, and Environment. Is my subcommittee. I'm vice chair of that one. I'm also on the Advanced Communications and Information Technology Committee, and I am on the City, County, and Local Affairs Committee, and that's where we heard that legislation about sanctuary cities.
Okay.
I'm an alternate to several committees in Legislative Council.
All right. Well, when I look over I'm looking over your list of bills that you've either sponsored yourself or co-sponsored. It definitely has a conservative thread through it for all the things that you've been involved with, whether it's protecting people's personal property or even down to establishing the Stolen Valor Act. I notice that your name is on that one as well, and concerning the rights of a concealed handgun licensee, all the things that align with the conservative values. So I want to tell you, and having served in the House with you, for 2 terms, I appreciate your conservative stand that you've always, had whenever it comes to your voting record. All right. Anything else that you want to share with the listening audience on the Kim Hammer Show?
Well, there are some things that I want people to know about me, that I am always looking for a way to provide tax relief for small businesses and working families. And I support law enforcement. And I have been endorsed by the National Rifle Association, the Arkansas Right to Life, and the National Federation of Independent Businesses. So I'm really proud of those because I really do like to support business. In Arkansas, we have a very poor population percentage-wise. And the only way that we can help lift everybody in our state up is, number one, make sure that they can get a good education. So I am definitely for school choice. Many of us can move to an area where our kids can get a good education. A lot of us do have school choice. Some people don't have that flexibility to move out of a bad school district. So I am definitely in support of school choice, and I want to do anything we can do to encourage business to come to Arkansas, including reducing our income tax, to encourage more businesses to come here, because our people need to be educated, and then they need the opportunity to make a living wage. And when we can do that, when we can lift people up so more people are working and making a good income, we can reduce things like our tremendous expenditure in the area of, what we used to call welfare,
All right.
But helping people who need supplemental income, supplemental food, supplemental
Carolyn,
everything.
I got to cut you off. I'm down to 10 seconds. That's Karilyn Brown, State Representative. Encourage you to get out and support her. And this is the Kim Hammer Show you've been listening to this afternoon. Hope you have a great afternoon, and thank you for listening to the Kim Hammer Show.
101.1 FM, The Answer. KDXE FM, Kamak Village, Little Rock. A Salem Media Group station. 101.1 FM, The Answer.